everybody, this video is for Group A lab students. It applies to all sections. The specific due dates may vary from one instructor to another, but in general, this is what you're looking at for this week, week 3. So, first off, you are in person this week, so you are going to do experiment 3, which is all about measuring and learning how significant of figures apply to science. This is universal skills, depending, it doesn't really matter which discipline you're going to end up in, all of them apply significant figures in measurements. So, the way to be successful in this experiment is first off to find it in your lab Blackboard site so that you know what you're doing. So you're going to, in this case, there's 2 places. You could go to the lab schedule, which has all of the procedures linked in there, as well as probably the due dates that you need to be paying attention to. The specific due dates, again, are going to vary from one instructor to another. It's to a document that has 2 different sections. Group A is the first page. It has very handy formulas here, and it also has our introductory lab manual, so you can refer to this when you're writing your reports, your introductions, and so forth. So the due dates are going to be different for each specific instructor, but in general you guys are in week 3, so Group A is doing this experiment, exploring significant figures in measurement. You want to print this procedure and bring it with you if you can. We did make some updates last week, so you want to print it recently. It is possible that the lab technician may be able to print it for you ahead of time, but it's also a pretty good idea for you to print it and watch all of the videos, look at all of the links in this video, in this procedure. So take notes on the procedure while you are watching them. This will help you get really ready for lab. The folks who did watch the video and look at all the links before they came finished the experiment on time. The people who didn't get a chance to watch the video did not finish the experiment on time, and they're going to have to come back in extra times. All right, and so you're going to start off with the calibrating the glassware, and there's 2 different videos linked in here. You want to watch them both and take note of what each glassware is, how can you tell them apart, what sig figs they have, and any helpful tips that you think will help you remember how to use it when you get into the lab. It's probably worth watching these kind of instructional videos a few times before you come in for lab. Okay, and so not only are the videos shown throughout the procedure, but I also collected them all in the pre-lab section just to really ensure that you watch them. That's how important they are. They're in 2 places. So these videos, all 5 of them, need to be watched. Take notes, really understand how to use these instruments. We can't come around and give you additional instruction on every single item. You've got to figure it out by watching the videos beforehand. It's too loud in the lab for us to teach in person that way. So make sure you watch these videos or you're going to end up coming into lab again. All right, and so on that same note, though, you have a pre-lab to do prior to the experiment. So to submit your pre-lab, what you're going to do is go to your lab site and click on your group, and then the black links will let you submit the information that you need to for each experiment. So for the experiment 3, you'll click on that link, and your pre-lab will be submitted in this link before you come to lab. When you submit your reports, you're going to do that down here, and you're going to do this week and next week's experiment as one big report. Okay, so you're going to work on the calculations for experiment 3 as part of your work at home next week. Okay, so that's the general outline of what you're doing in lab this week. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you want to get out on time, watch the videos. So the other thing here, review of the introduction for trace contamination. So you should have submitted the draft, or you are submitting the draft soon, depending on your instructor's chosen schedule. And you do that again by clicking the View/Complete Assessment. Then during your peer review period, which don't pay attention to these dates unless you're in my lab, because they will vary from one instructor to another. But during that peer review period, you come back to the same link, and you are going to provide some really robust feedback to help your classmates get a better grade. So by robust, I mean include information about what hypotheses you think they're addressing, and if you think they're missing any. There's at least 4 in this experiment. You also want to talk about whether they're missing any particular vocabulary words, such as trace contamination should be defined, transfer loss should be defined. All the terms that are new to you in this experiment should get discussed in the introduction. Don't spend a lot of time talking about the procedure in the intro, though. So a very quick summary, 1 sentence, max 2 sentences is okay, but we do not want to get stuck in the trap of putting in the detailed experimental setup in an intro. That's not what an intro is for. All right, so you're going to just really focus on the theory and the hypothesis. Well, hypotheses, you're going to have many of them. Not so much the procedure. Okay? So anyways, hopefully you've written that already and uploaded it, and this week is peer review, and you want to focus on giving the feedback that will help other students get an A on their intros. Helping out with grammar is very nice, but it's not a required part of peer review. Peer review really focuses on content more than the structure of the writing. Okay, if it's very hard to understand the paper because of the grammar and the punctuation, all that kind of thing, you can feel free to suggest some improvements. Okay, so be sure that you are checking on the lab schedule and you know what's happening when. Okay, the other part of lab that might be outstanding for you is the second experiment, which is separation of a mixture. Most of you should have finished that experiment last week and returned your kit by Friday. If you did not, please be sure that you return the kit as soon as possible. We need to be able to give those 2 students who joined the class late or for whatever reason weren't able to get their kit in week 1 and week 2. So please get the materials turned back in if you already took your kit home. If you need to pick up a kit and you have not done so yet, the times you can do so are Monday at 8 to 9 a.m., Tuesday 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., Wednesday from 8 to 9 a.m., and Thursday from 12 to 1. The expectation is that you will do the experiment this week, so it's a good idea to pick it up earlier in the week. And in general, I would just tell you from the last 2 weeks of people working on this experiment that it's important to understand a couple of ideas. First off, you do have to look at those properties of matter that we list in the beginning of the procedure, because that is the information you need to make a decision about how you're going to separate the benzoic acid from the rest of the materials. Once you have a plan in mind, jump in and try it. A lot of us are very hesitant to try anything, and I think that is going to make science really hard. So science is about trying and failing, and you've got to give yourself a chance to do that. So the other piece of advice I would tell you is that in science we generally prefer to dissolve things in a beaker or a cup before we filter them. So I've noticed some people trying to put the solid material in the filter and then pour the water over top. That doesn't work very well. The filters work too fast, and it does not give a chance for things to dissolve. So instead, dissolve it in a separate container first and then pour it into the filter. Slightly different from how we make coffee, although really coffee filters filter really slowly, so the water gets trapped for a pretty significant period of time rather than mixing it ahead. Okay, so not really that different, but it does appear to work differently since most of the time we don't look inside the coffee pot. Okay, so you're going to have to discuss on an individual basis with your instructor if you have not yet done the separation of a mixture experiment, because obviously you can't turn in your lab sheets when they were due, which is the end of last week probably. Okay, but if you haven't done it, get it done. Be brave, try some science, experiment with it, and use the information you have to form a new hypothesis, and then try it. As usual, if you have any difficulty or questions, please reach out to me or your lab instructor, and we are happy to help you.